Today. Hey everybody, I am Haley Gray and I'm the founder of the Women's Entrepreneur Network, and I am excited to be with you today for another amazing event. I am here for August 2023's WEN Talk event. This is a live event that we do every single month in Women's Entrepreneur Network, and we bring in some amazing speakers. And we're going to kick off today's talk with the amazing, the fabulous, the enchanting and brilliant and motivating and all kinds of superlatives, Carolyn Pistone. Welcome, Carolyn. I am so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Haley. This is my favorite place.
I'm so glad to have you here. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and take the stage.
Hello, everybody. I'm Carolyn Pistone. My company is Clear Blue Commercial. We're a certified green business, a certified woman-owned business, a certified small business, and a B Corp. We're the only real estate services firm in the world that is all of those things. And that's the last time I will talk to you about my business. What I am very excited about talking to you about today is about values and values in action. And I should say more, values in action in your business and your life, because really this is about bringing your whole self to your whole life. I like to say that if you lose enough jobs, you get a great resume, and mine is particularly impressive. I have been running this company for 10 years now. It's the longest job I've ever had. It's the best job I've ever had. And as I look back on my career and where I've come to, I realize that no matter what it says on my business card, my life's work is the same because of where my passion is, and that stems from where my values are. So I'd like to share with you just some examples of work that I've done on values, not just for myself, but with groups, and that you can do in your own companies. There's a little introductory exercise that I like to do with all the groups that I work with. And I pass out this lovely sheet that I'm not sharing on a slide with you all because it's not important right now. This is a list of 100 values, and they range from achievement, adventure, commitment, compassion, empowerment, encouragement, generosity, happiness, health, family, humor, love, passion, perseverance, et cetera, wisdom and wonder is how they're alphabetical. So there's a whole bunch in between. So what I would do if I was working with you all is I'd pass this out to everybody, and I'll give you 90 seconds to circle your top 5. Now, I do this exercise with every group that I'm with, in every meeting that I'm chairing. I've done it within my family. Basically, just circle your top 5. And when I say circle your top 5 values, inevitably there's a ton of questions and a ton of resistance. First thing people ask is usually, do I have to put my name on this? And what I have to say to that is, no, this does not go on your permanent record. There are no wrong choices. This is just an exercise that we're doing. And the reason I focused on, do we have to put our name on this, is it's just an indication of how uncomfortable people can be talking about their values when it comes to their work. And I'm sort of evangelizing on the fact that there is no work worth doing that doesn't incorporate your values. So then we get through that, and then inevitably I will get the question, do you mean our values at work or our values in our lives? I get this question every single time I do this exercise. And it always flabbergasts me, because your values are your values. And I would hesitate to say that if your values are different in your work than they are in your life, you may be working in the wrong place. So moving forward from that, I also want to say that and people get very focused on getting it right or figuring out, if it's a situation where I'm the boss, figuring out what I want them to do. This is actually an opportunity for introspection to tell you what moves you. So eventually we get through the questions, everybody settles down and circles their top 5. And I hesitate, and I don't hesitate. I strongly want you to say again and again, there are no wrong answers. These are all good things. Professionalism is a good thing. Diversity, empowerment, encouragement, these are all good things. Genocide is not on this list. Animal cruelty is not on this list. Pollution is not on this list. There are no wrong answers. And I've done this enough times to know that I could do this exercise twice today and my answers would be different. So and these do not go in your permanent record, as I said before. So once we get everybody circling their top 5, we go ahead and gather them up and quickly do a tally so that we can come to a consensus. So we take the top 5 that the group has and we post them up in front of on a wall or in front of the meeting or wherever. And the reason we do this is because these are values that we can all agree on. So now we know that if we, these are values that we share. These are the values that we use as a touchstone when we work together, whenever we interact, when we interact with our clients. These are the values that we're going to keep in mind and keep top of mind as we do our work. Then we look at, why do we come to work at all? Now I know we all need to eat and pay our bills and do, survive. And that is the reason that people work. However, everybody has a choice about where they work and the kind of work that they do. I did not round all these people up with a gun and tell them they had to work with me. So when they looking at their values, then you look at what's important to you within those values. What's truly do you need to value in the work that you do in order to value your work? So when we look at that, we start writing down, why do I come to work? What are my priorities when I come to work? Then, as a group, why do we come to work here? What's the purpose? What's the why? And how does that relate to these values? From there, we take all the reasons why we come to work at this place, whatever this place is or whatever this project is. We take our values and the reasons why we come to work at this place, and then we look at what is the purpose of the business and what is the need for our clients. So that we take our values, our reasons why, the company's reasons why, and the needs of the clients, and we roll that all together to create what our mission really is. So that when we get bogged down in the day-to-day of our lives and our work, we can go back to, this is why we're doing this. Now, does how we're doing this relate to why we're doing this, or is it completely divergent? And that tells us what clients we pick to work with, what projects we pick to do, and how we go about doing our work and interacting with each other and with our communities. I would suggest that, remember when I told you about the, if you lose enough jobs, you get a great resume. Any job that I have done, the main passion for me is the ability in any position to be a catalyst for positive change. That's me. Yours may and probably should be different. But the reason when I look at that, I can look at any job that I've done and seen that, yes, that's what I brought to this position. And the shortest jobs I've ever had are ones that didn't allow me to be a catalyst for positive change. For example, and this is a terrible example, but one of my jobs that I had when I was in college is I actually gutted fish in a fish canning factory. And there was nothing I could do in that job that had any meaning or value or passion for me. And that's when I realized that it wasn't a job, it was a task. I only lasted 5 days in that job, just so you know. And I have tremendous respect for anybody that works in a factory setting, anybody that works growing our food, picking our food, serving our food, packaging, all these kinds of things that need trucking, all these kinds of things that keep our country going and our economy going, are incredibly valuable to the rest of us. The challenge is for us as individuals, number one, to honor the value that every one of us brings, but also to honor in our daily lives the incredible amount of work that is done just so that we can live the life of our dreams. And I would suggest that if you are not living your values, no matter how profitable your company is, no matter how great your bank balance and your retirement account is, no matter how much you love your home, any of those types of things, if you are not living your values, it's not successful. I recently have been watching Rainn Wilson's series on MSNBC called The Geography of Bliss. And he's gone to several different countries to look at their happiness quotient and look at why are some places happier than others. And what he found, and there's lots of great tidbits in there. I highly recommend it. And I don't own stock in whatever that series is. But one of the things, he went to a more impoverished country in Asia, where the people are extremely happy and they are always smiling, and they are not a rich country at all. You see going through, there's dirt roads and barefoot people, and but overwhelmingly their focus was on happiness and joy and letting go of resentment and gratitude, being grateful for everything that we have, being grateful for this beautiful, warm, lovely planet. But ultimately, what their worldview is that whatever they have is plenty. And in a lot of ways it is, because we are fortunate enough to be humans and to be born on this planet. Even William Shatner, the great Captain Kirk, upon going into space in real life for the first time, returned overcome with emotion and sobbing. And what he talked about afterwards, as he tried to describe what he was feeling, is his overwhelming feeling was one of grief at leaving this beautiful, warm, light-filled planet. And looking back at it from a distance and also looking out into the vast cold blackness of space. Sort of the ultimate homesickness. And to be able to come back to Earth and appreciate it in a way, and many astronauts express this as well, to be able to return to our planet, which is so uniquely special in the world, and express gratitude within that, is, in my opinion, part of it, what it means to be truly living your life and truly living your values. As I said, if we go back to my little exercise and my list, this values list, my husband and I do this little exercise whenever we have a big decision to make, or whenever we're thinking about what to do with our business, because we own the business together, is we'll go back and we'll do the values exercise and go, what is valuable to us right now? And how does this decision relate to those values? So you can do it all the time. I have a bunch of different lists of values for different groups that I have nearby, and sometimes I'll look at them real quick before a meeting. But it's a way not just for you to have meaning and value and satisfaction in your work. It is a way to bring the people who work for you or the people who are working on a project together to come together in a way that is exciting and meaningful and brings the best out of everybody. Because what they have, they meaning people who have done studies on job satisfaction, is even more than money. Employees and people working on a project want to feel seen, want to feel valued, and want to feel fully utilized. And these, by linking it all to your values and linking pretty much anything you do in your life's work to your values, is what's going to not only give you satisfaction, but it's going to make sure that you're bringing into the world and into the project and into the work the best of yourself, the part of you that only you can bring, so that it takes what can feel like meaningless tasks and give them meaning, because they're part of a much bigger endeavor. They're part of an endeavor that is bringing your value to the world and making the world a better place, and bringing to this life and to this planet those things that are uniquely you. So that, and for me, this may be a big ego trip, but I want the world to be a better place because I was here. And so I want to live my values every day and really look for places to be a catalyst for positive change in whatever I do with my life's work or whatever I do with my family. I would encourage all of you to do the same, because just looking at your values and how they are implemented in your daily life is going to make the world a better place. And all of you have so much value to bring. Briefly, I want to say, even more, when I said even more than money, as an employer, for me, I have learned I want to pay everybody what they're worth. What I have learned is that it is not possible to pay anybody what they're worth, because there's not enough money in the world to adequately honor the amazing soul, spirit, and contribution of a human being. You can only pay people what the task is worth. However, if you can work with people in a way that helps them live their values and bring their full self to work, you have absolutely made the world a better place, just like that. And so I would encourage you all to live your values in the best way you possibly can. And I can't wait to see all the wonderful value you're all bringing to the world.
That's amazing. I just don't even know where to start. So many amazing points. Thank you, Carolyn.
You bet.
How would you go about finding you?
You can go to www.clearbluecommercial.com, and that's all one word. And I'm there on my website. That's the website for my company, and I'm all over it. My email's there. You can contact me any way you like, and I would be happy to come and speak to any or all of you. And if you want to do some values work, it's what lights me up.
I love it so much. Thank you so much for being a speaker today. Y'all, let's give Carolyn a huge round of applause. Thank you for being here, Carolyn. I really appreciate you and the topic and values. It's a lot of why I do what I do and why I'm here. So happy to have you here. Welcome. Thank you. And with that, we're going to move on to our next amazing speaker. I am so delighted to have you here, Heike. Welcome. And please, I will go ahead and give you the stage. I am delighted to have you here.
Thank you so much, Haley, for the opportunity to share LinkedIn tips with your community at this WEN event. I so enjoy meeting new and successful minded people from a variety of backgrounds and professions. And I love the positive support in your communities and how people help each other out with tips and other ways to boost each other. Just like we heard from the previous speaker, there's so much positivity in your groups. Thank you very much. As Haley mentioned, my name is Heike Heemann. I'm a business coach, and I am focused on helping professionals take their LinkedIn profiles and strategy from blah to magnetic. Now, why would a business coach be talking to you about LinkedIn? LinkedIn has helped me in different career areas over time, and I am a big fan of this platform. And I see a lot of people struggling with how to make it worth for them and how to keep up with what is maybe perceived to be a lot of work with little payback. So how did it help me personally? I got on LinkedIn in 2008 and was at the time looking for a new career opportunity. I did find one that took me from Wisconsin to Maryland, and I had to start from scratch with networking. So I had to, on a personal level, I had to find a realtor, doctors, mortgage broker, etc. So there were a lot of professionals that I needed to find in this new community I was moving to. And LinkedIn was a phenomenal resource there because people recommended folks from their network. And as you likely know, if you've been on LinkedIn, recommendations are a very important part in making someone's profile look credible. So it helped me there in the job search and relocation. And then later on, when I decided to leave the corporate world and step out on my own, I needed to build a network basically from scratch, because in my professional career, I was working with a lot of international clients, and that did not apply to what I wanted to do going forward as a business coach. So I had to start from scratch, and I combined in-person networking with growing my LinkedIn profile. And then as I started as a business coach with often long-term retainer contracts, I figured there's got to be a way for me to introduce myself to my community in a small, bite-sized kind of way. So I actually started teaching LinkedIn workshops. And by the way, if you are starting a business and you have a skill in something ancillary, you can do the same. If your business is based on retainers that are 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 6 months, a year, then you want to have a way to get people to be familiar with you in a bite-sized way. And for me, that was giving LinkedIn seminars. And I have since turned that into the primary focus of my business, is helping people one-on-one or in group sessions or for companies with LinkedIn. So today I'm happy to share 4 tips on how to make your LinkedIn experience one that helps you thrive as an entrepreneur, and 2 things you should absolutely not do on LinkedIn, something that unfortunately too many people do. So let's start with the 4 tips of what LinkedIn can be beyond your resume, which is how a lot of people start out. So number 1, it can be a place to increase your know, like, and trust factor. And as I'm sure you all know, people like to do business, like to buy from, like to work with people they know, like, and trust. So how does LinkedIn help with that? First off, obviously, you need to have a complete profile. Just having a list of employers and titles is absolutely not enough. You want to have a profile filled out in a way that speaks to the audience you want to talk to, and not just reflect on, oh, I used to do this and I was great at that. It should be forward looking. It should speak to the person that you want to connect with, so that when they see your photo and your headline, they're enticed to click to the full profile. And then within each section of your profile, they're so enticed by the first few lines that LinkedIn shows them that they want to, again, click on the more button to open up additional information about you. So you want to show, in terms of the know part of the know, like, and trust factor, you want to show your expertise, and you want to show a little bit of your personality. And as tied into the previous speakers, you want to show something about your values. And all these things can be reflected in a combination of your profile and in what you post and how you interact with others on the platform. For the like factor, obviously you want not just a professional headshot, but you should have a friendly looking one. I know there's some people that like to look stern, but for the most part, it is best to look friendly and to have your headshot up to date. If you have a headshot that is 5-10 years old, it may have been the best picture ever of you, but if you've now cut your hair, dyed it a different color, and now wear glasses all the time, and none of that is reflected in the photo on your LinkedIn profile, it's not helping you combine your in-person networking or your virtual networking on Zoom with networking on LinkedIn. So make sure you've got that all set. In terms of the like factor, the tone of your profile, you should set up your profile in the first person, not as if somebody was talking about you. So avoid third person when you're describing yourself and your achievements on your profile. And then again, how you interact with other and the content other people present is a big part of your like factor. And then in terms of the trust factor, it's how you share your expertise and the recommendations you both give and receive on LinkedIn. For a LinkedIn profile to be considered complete by the LinkedIn algorithm, which determines how high you show up on a search or not, one of the things that you need is 3 recommendations that you've received. And they certainly need to be more than just, Susie was great to work with. We'd love to work with her again in the future. That is helpful to some extent for the algorithm, but for anyone that sees that recommendation, it's not enough. So make sure that you get at least 3 recommendations that are well fleshed out and talk about what it is like to work with you. That can be from a previous working relationships. If you just are starting out with your entrepreneurship journey, it can be from a previous job. It can be a supervisor there or a former client. That doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be tied to your current job, but a recommendation that's well written and talks about what it's like to work with you is still going to impart trust in the person reading it. So the second thing is you want to create a company page to serve as your second website. That is not to be confused with your personal profile. You have to have a personal profile first, and then you can set up a company page where you can upload your logo and have slightly different contact information, or content rather, but you can add additional things like if you're hiring, you can add job listings there. So the company page gives you, again, extra credibility as to being in business as opposed to having an entrepreneurship goal, but currently performing that as a hobby, if you will. Then LinkedIn, besides being a search engine, is one of the biggest search engines online. I call it the Google for people. It's a blogging platform. So if you are currently blogging on your company page or on your own website, you can move some of that information over to your company page as well as your personal profile. But blogging is an important tool on LinkedIn to increase your reach and get your content out in front of more people. And then the fourth thing that LinkedIn can represent for you is a mini CRM, a customer relationship management tool. You may make connections in your networking in person or online that maybe aren't quite in the realm of potential clients, but they could be referral partners. So the way you send invites with an invite text that's customized and the way you respond to invites that you accept will give you a track of how you met people, let's say at a chamber event or at a association meeting, that you can then track back. What's really nice about using LinkedIn in cooperation with your in-person networking is that it's a great way to keep track of people when they change jobs and therefore change their email addresses. I mean, you could have a ton of business cards and within 3 to 6 months, half of them are out of date because people have changed jobs. And then how do you find them? Well, through LinkedIn. And you can still contact them directly if they are directly connected with you on that platform. So I would encourage you, anytime you go to an in-person event, automatically follow up with either a connection request directly on LinkedIn, or to send an email asking if they are open to connecting and then connecting on LinkedIn. That way you have them both in your email system and in your LinkedIn. So that is a great feature that LinkedIn offers. Now, many of you are active on other platforms, from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok and beyond. And you can be successful on LinkedIn as well, since a lot of the same rules apply. It's, how well do you play with others? Pretty much all platforms have some way of liking someone else's post, no matter if that's a thumbs up symbol or an actual like or a heart. Doesn't matter, but similar concept. You can comment on other people's information. So make sure that you interact the same way on LinkedIn. Now, since LinkedIn is a search engine, you obviously need a profile that converts. However, before you truly dive into LinkedIn, or even if you've been on it for years, this is something to consider. To do a deep dive into your target audience, and then instead of targeting them on LinkedIn as individuals, where you want to find a client, see if you can instead target your LinkedIn profile towards the people that can refer you to your ideal client. So your messaging may be different from Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or elsewhere. So what do I mean by that? Let's say you're a CPA and you're active on Facebook, where you might be looking for individuals or small businesses that could become your clients. You might then decide that on LinkedIn, you want to find people who can refer those people to you, which could be financial planners, insurance brokers, or realtors, because they all deal with other aspects of people's finances, especially realtors that, for instance, deal with people who are relocating from other cities or other states, possibly even other countries. So that would be a way to target on LinkedIn differently from wherever you normally look for your individual clients. Another example might be a chiropractor or a physical therapist who shows a lot of informational videos on Instagram, on Facebook, in order to grow a following of potential new patients. Well, on LinkedIn, the audience for a chiropractor or a physical therapist could be doctors, especially those in family practice, orthopedics, or other medical specialties that could send you referrals because the modalities kind of help each other. Let's look at one more example. Let's say you own a flower shop or a bakery specialized in wedding cakes. Like with the previous example, you could look for individual clients on other social media platforms and use LinkedIn to find those people who already have the same types of clients. That could be wedding planners, bridal shops, or wedding photographers. So you could form alliances on LinkedIn where you can send each other referrals and help each other out that way. Next, you want to build out your LinkedIn profile so it's a magnet for people who could send you referrals. So your messaging, your profile headline, your banner, your about section all need to be different in order to attract that particular referral partner. Your headline is particularly important. A lot of people have either the current title or they literally write in founder of XYZ business. Well, that's not going to make anyone open up your profile to read more. But if you talk about your audience, who you help, how you help them, what you help them with, that will entice people to look for more information on your profile. And you have 220 characters in your headline to get that message across. So that's very, very important. Now, before I go into the two things you should absolutely avoid on LinkedIn, if you're finding this information helpful, I would love to hear from you. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. As I said, I'm very happy to help you transform your LinkedIn profile and LinkedIn strategy from blah to magnetic. So one thing I learned when I was a ski instructor for the US military is that you shouldn't start a new sport or activity that requires any level of skill without a coach, teacher, or instructor. Why is that? Because it's so easy to pick up bad habits that are difficult to break later on. And there are some bad habits that are displayed on LinkedIn and elsewhere as well that can really destroy anything you've built up in terms of that know, like, and trust factor. Number one is what these days is called a pitch slap. In other words, either in your invitation to connect or in your first communication afterwards, you offer your services. That's a no-no. You want to be on LinkedIn to build relationships, show interest in the other people, find out how you can help them, support their information that they're putting out on LinkedIn. So don't pitch slap people. That is a very bad habit. You may get some business out of that, but you will burn a lot of bridges. And the other bad habit that I've seen some people implement is as soon as they connect with someone, they add them to their newsletter. That is not okay. Don't do that. It's an easy way to get blocked on LinkedIn and get your emails flagged as spam in your potential clients or referral partners' email inbox, and therefore losing anything that you've built with the right profile. I hope you find this information both interesting and helpful. Remember to connect with me on LinkedIn. And Haley, thanks again for the opportunity. I love sharing tips about LinkedIn and really enjoyed being here with you and your community today.
Thank you so much. These were some really awesome tips. And can I please double extra highlight the, engaging headline and no pitch slapping?
Yes, it's huge.
How does somebody get in touch with you?
They can find me on my website. It's ideasharecoaching.com. So IDEA sharecoaching.com.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here today. And yes, and this is why a lot of the DMing tactics on LinkedIn fail miserably, because you're cold DMing people and burning your audience really fast.
Right.
So thank you for sharing that there is a better way to do this.
Yes. Thanks, Haley.
Thank you, Heike. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for being here, y'all. Let's give Heike a huge round of applause. And thank you for being here and sharing some amazing topics. And with that, I'm going to say thank you. And we're going to move on to our next speaker. And gosh, we are amazingly on time today. Who would have thought? Welcome, Dana. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so happy to have you here.
Haley.
And I can hear you loud and clear. Everybody, let's give Dana a huge round of applause for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a speaker today. And I'm going to go ahead and give you the stage.
Thanks, Haley. Greatly appreciate it. Oh, Haley, what a great platform you have to incite people to be better, to do better, and feel better. I love how you approach life and how you encourage others. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump in. I'm Dana Bagnall. I'm the founder of Making a Difference Because You Matter. And I serve as a holistic health and wellness practitioner, as well as a consultant, a coach, and a speaker. And my main role every day is to help people to shift from the paradigm of chronic illnesses, chronic diseases, so that we can all just heal from the inside out. You know, from a lot of the stuff that we carry that we don't need to carry, or maybe we need to just set it down for a moment. So I'm talking about like releasing pain, releasing stress, fatigue, trauma, depression, anxiety, so that we can energetically, master our well-being to live life more abundantly. And that's what we are here for, is to live life more abundantly. Now, this month of August is actually the month of where, if you are a parent, you're getting your children ready to get, to head back to school, or maybe they're already in school. And you're looking also to close out the year. So I want to talk to you about how you can successfully close out the year, as well as help your family to do it. And you're probably like, Dana, I just want to close out today. I just want to make it through the day. That's where I'm at. And if that's where you're at, that's good, because I'm going to help you how to do it on a day-to-day basis. So the outcome is you're having a successful year. And so the first 3 steps that I'm going to give to you, and it centers around taking your pulse. Now, most people think when you take your pulse, you're taking your 2 fingers and you're placing it up against your artery, or you're placing it here, right? You could also place it on the top of your foot, or on the side of your groin, or around your kneecap. Okay, those are places where you can take your pulse. That's what we are conditioned and trained, and how we learned how to take your pulse. And that is well and good. But in order to have a successful day and a successful year, it's important for us to be able to tap in and understand what causes our pulse to rise, what causes it to race, that prevents us from being able to accomplish what we said is important to us. So the first step is to take your pulse and understanding what causes your blood to rise or to quicken, or your heart to palpitate. What causes distress in your life? And there's many ways that you could take a look at looking at it. We look at 12 different areas, but our clients, they get to choose as to where they want to focus, what area in their life. We have a pinwheel that talks about the quality of life. Do you want to take your pulse in that area? Do you want to take it in the spiritual area, the emotional, physical, relational, career? The list goes on. So for yourself, take a look and take your pulse and just look at what areas in my life that is perhaps challenging me the most from having a successful day or having a successful outcome in the way that brings joy and happiness and peace along the way. Okay, so that's the first step. And I'll go back into details to show you how. The second step involves PULSE, which is the acronym for the word PULSE, and that stands for Practicing Unlimited Love Through Self-Evaluation. I'm going to repeat that again. PULSE, which is the second step, it involves practicing unlimited love through self-evaluation. Now, when you're practicing PULSE, this is when you get to love on yourself. After you have taken a look at what is causing distress in my life or in the different areas that are important to me that we just covered, now is your time to love on you, to practice PULSE, loving you. And so that may look different for everybody. It may mean that you are meditating and praying when it comes to the spiritual sense. It may mean that you are going outside and you're connecting with nature. You're receiving natural vitamin D that is touching your skin on your arms and on your face or on your legs. Because energetically, that feeds you and it feeds your eyes, which then speaks to your brain, which then releases those happy neurotransmitters, which I say is like taking a dose of God. It's the healthy prescription you want to take in life. DOSE stands for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Okay? So who doesn't want to get a dose of God? So, practicing PULSE is learning how to love on you. All right. The third step is eating your PULSE. Now, you may be wondering, did I just hear her correctly? Did she say eating your PULSE? Yes. Eat your PULSE. This is not only biblical, that goes back to if you read scriptures in the Bible, in the book of Daniel. He was young. He and his 3 friends, they ate PULSE, and they encouraged the king to have everyone else to eat PULSE after he witnessed how strong they were. That they ended up defeating the people who were coming against them in the army. They battled them and they won. So who would not want to combat their challenges so that they could come out victorious? Okay? So when you eat your PULSE, it is scientifically proven that when you consume more plant-based options on your on your plate, that you are feeding your mind, you're feeding your body to be strengthened to combat perhaps some hidden illnesses through epigenetics, meaning that you have inherited certain genes. Okay, you get to combat them by eating whole plant-based foods, eating legumes, eating peanuts, eating peas, beans, lettuce, leafy vegetables. Okay, you want to eat the rainbow. In our practice, we refer to it as a pulse rainbow. When you look at your plate, you want to see it represent the rainbow. You want to see different color choices because those colors actually feeds different parts of your body different organs. It all serves a purpose. Okay? So that's what I mean by taking or eating your pulse. So again, there are 3 major steps that can help you to live your life daily so that you can have successful outcomes, not only daily, but for the year. And that is 1, by taking your pulse. What is causing distress in your life? Okay? Just awakening yourself to it, having real talk. All right? Just becoming aware of it, not to judge it. Don't judge yourself. Just be a silent observer of what is going on in your life that is causing dis-ease. Okay? Because if it is not taken care of, it is shown, scientifically shown, and by working with people, it is shown that what causes dis-ease in your life has the potential to become a disease, like a chronic illness, like stroke, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, different forms of cancers, where your hair falls out. Okay? There's so much more. So that will take us into the next step again, which is practicing pulse. Okay? That is the acronym for practicing unlimited love through self-evaluation. This is where you just want to love on you. If there's anyone or anybody that knows you the most, it's your body. Mm-hmm. Your body goes with you wherever you go. And energetically speaking, you are a spiritual being before you are a human being. So energetically, we are all designed to love. So start incorporating more things into your life that you can feel loved. Okay? Even if it's only taking 15 minutes out of the day, just block off 15 minutes. Aren't you worth it? The other thing was eating your pulse. Make sure that you take into account when you're putting food onto your plate or when you're putting food onto your family's plate. Is it balanced? Perhaps you're not able to get it all in one meal, and that's okay. The preference is that you do, but if not, that's okay. Just throughout the day, make sure that you're incorporating the different rainbow colors into your lifestyle. So here are a couple things that I think will also help you to experience success throughout the day. And I wrote them down. Okay? Spiritually, we already talked about praying and meditating. But why not also create a gratitude journal? One of the other speakers had already alluded to it. It's so important because when you create a gratitude journal, guess what? You're releasing dopamine, that neurotransmitter that's inside of us, inside of our brain. You're releasing it throughout the body, which then helps your parasympathetic system to go into loving you more. It's no longer in that fight or flight situation. Okay? Next category is emotional. For emotional, why not set healthy parameters? Now, as women, we have a conditioned habit of saying yes to people or I'm sorry. Set parameters. It's okay to say no. It's okay for you to stand in your truth. It's okay for you to not only stand in your truth, but when you do that, you are seeding more yes for tomorrows. Okay? You're worth it. And while you're here, your purpose, your mission is worth you being able to say more to those yes, as opposed to no's that are or things that you're taking on that doesn't belong to you. All right. Also, underneath emotional, create a dump list. All right. That's really important. Place it on your nightstand. And this is where you could do this 30 minutes to 60 minutes ahead of time. And you can start just writing stuff down of things that you did not have the chance to accomplish for the day that you may need to accomplish for tomorrow. All right. When you do that, you're giving yourself permission to go back to ease and to be able to breathe, because you're telling yourself, I didn't get to you today. It's okay. I really wanted to, but I didn't. But tomorrow, I'll take care of you tomorrow. All right. So create a dump list, especially before you lay your head down to rest. And surrender what does not belong to you. Physical. Highly encourage you to be in movement. All right. A lot of women say to me, Dana, I don't have the time of the day. I got to do this for my kids. I got to do this for my partner, for my husband. I got to do this. I got to be at work at this, for my business. I have X amount of Z. I'm wearing like 10 hats, Dana. It's not possible. Let me tell you what's not possible. What's not possible is that if you don't incorporate movement at least 10 to 15 minutes on a daily basis, what's not possible is that you're not going to be here to help see the things that you want to be successful in on a greater basis. Okay? Because our muscles, they atrophy as we get older if you're not in movement. Our cognition, it starts to decline. So stay in movement. All right. And that could be doing yoga, 15 minutes, Tai Chi. All right. I love Tai Chi. Doing HIIT training, which is high impact training. Or it could be just walking, which is low impact to the body. But oh my goodness, it does so much. I do it every morning with my girlfriends out here. I love it. It's a time to connect, to socialize, to connect with nature, and then to also be in movement. All right. Nutritionally speaking, a healthy, low-fat, plant-based lifestyle, it empowers your immune system and your endocrine system. Okay? So ladies, take care of you. We already talked about eating a pulse rainbow. Maybe perhaps do a intermittent fast or some form of fasting. Okay? To help your body to recalibrate. Environmentally, all right? What is in your space at home or in your workspace or in your community, all right, that is causing distress or stress in your life? Is it your bedroom? Is your bedroom too cluttered? All right? Are you having a hard time sleeping because of that? Because you're trying to figure out, oh my gosh, I can't sleep because there's clothes over here in this corner, things are not in place. Or perhaps you want to take a look at minimizing products that have toxins in it. Look at your laundry detergent. Look at your lotions. Look at your clothing. Look at your electronic devices. Please move your electronic devices to another room because they emit dirty energy. Okay, so these are all things that hopefully is helpful and that you could just do today. I gave you a laundry list, but just pick one or two things so that you can experience peace simply by taking your pulse. And if you want to reach out to me, if you want to find out more or seek consultative services or participate in our cohort coaching group, feel free to reach out to makingadifferencebecauseyoumatter.com or danabagnall.com.
Awesome. I really want to say thank you so much for some amazing tips, because this entrepreneurial journey, sometimes it's a rough one, and we don't talk enough about the mental health and the physical health,
Yes.
the self-care, spiritual aspects of it,
Yes.
how much we really need to do for ourselves and how important that is. So I want to just tell you, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Okay, everybody, let's give Dana a huge round of applause. Dana, thank you for being a speaker today. Thank you. I appreciate you. And I want to tell you that I really appreciate you being here. Rounds of applause. Thank you, and all the things. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for being a speaker on this month's event. And I really appreciate you. Okay, so now we're going to welcome our next speaker to the stage. Welcome, Erin. I want to say thank you so much for being a speaker today and stepping in and taking this spot today. I really appreciate you. Are you able to hear me, and can you say hello so I can make sure we have a mic check real quick?
Yes, thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Testing 1, 2.
Yep, testing 1, 2, exactly. Before I go and disappear myself off and we realize that we don't have audio. So thank you so much for being here, Erin. I want to introduce Erin and welcome her to the stage. And I want to give you a huge thank you for stepping in at the last minute, unscheduled, unplanned, and doing this talk. You have 20 minutes. If you need anything, I am sitting here waiting. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the stage, Erin.
Thank you so much, Haley, for having me. It is a pleasure to be here today with the Women's Entrepreneur Network. Like she said, this was a last minute thing. I didn't find out until about 10 o'clock the other night that it was even an opportunity. And then we got it solidified yesterday. So luckily, I happen to have some really great information for you. And we're going to be talking about podcasting, and we're going to be talking about the business side of podcasting. And I just want to let you know, I get messages probably weekly. Yeah, it's weekly, almost daily at this point, of podcasters being like, Erin, why am I not getting leads out of my podcast? Why is my podcast not monetizing? Why is my audience just lurking? And there's a reason. It's because you don't have a funnel in place. And so that's what we're going to be talking today. The first thing I want to let you know is that the podcast industry has changed. I was recently watching, I don't know if there are any fans of Sex and the City out there, but I was recently watching the new spinoff on HBO called And Just Like That. And in this season, Carrie Bradshaw has a Sex and the City podcast. And I love it. You know, as a podcaster myself, as somebody who owns a podcast agency, I was just like, oh my God, this is perfect, because a lot of authors have podcasts. So it fit her story arc really well. But in one of the scenes, there was a thing where the producer wanted her to record an ad for a women's smell odor. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but it's for a feminine wash product. And she's like, I don't think I want to record this. And she was reading the script of the ad, and she was like, this was written by a man, which is hilarious in and of itself, but I digress. She refused to record that ad, and the executive producer of the ad network and the podcast network came back to her and said, this is not the podcasting boom of 2021, Carrie. You got to do the ad. And whenever that was said, it was like a bell that rang in my head. And I was like, you know what? This just confirmed everything that I've been seeing and feeling in the podcast industry. And literally within days, I put together a workshop, because I'm like, this has to be talked about. It is no longer the podcasting boom of 2021. Now, back in 2021, you could launch a podcast and you would, even if you had a small audience, you would almost launch into the top 5% of podcasters. Nowadays, the market has become so saturated that it's not like that anymore. A lot of people's downloads are going down because of that market saturation. And then you consider the fact that YouTube is adding in new features to compete with podcasting, which YouTube has always been saturated. but now they're trying to compete in other ways. And so the industry is rapidly changing. And here are some key indicators of this. Number one, let's talk about how Spotify, who recently acquired Anchor, the hosting platform, they laid off 6% of their podcast division. What does that tell you? That tells you that ad revenues are down. And then you look into NPR. NPR is one of the lead podcast networks, and they canceled 4 of their podcasts earlier this year in March. And then you start looking at networks like CNN, Gannett, which is USA Today, Vox Media, Amazon, Google, Meta, Sirius. They're all laying off parts of their podcast division. And so that's telling me that there is not much money in the ad networks of podcasting. And so that's why the massive layoffs are happening. And people are starting to basically merge their resources. So for example, if you're a podcaster out there, just 2 days ago, if you used Descript acquired Squadcast. This was literally 2 days ago, which I think is really cool because I use both Descript and podcast or Squadcast. But that just tells you that, like, that's one of those little flags that is being waved that the industry is changing. So you have to have a system in place for your podcast to be successful. And in business, the whole point of podcasting is to generate leads for your business. And so today I want to talk to you about what I call the Netflix model of podcasting. See, because of all of these changes, we have to pivot our strategy. So many times, you look at podcasts out there, just go through your Apple Podcast app or your Spotify app or Amazon Music, which they need to change that to podcast. But anyways, I digress. You go through those podcasts and it's a mixed bag. There's a lot of one-offs. But if you apply the Netflix model, it keeps people coming back for more. And so I want to look at how Netflix does things. First of all, they've stopped creating movies. I don't know if you've noticed this, but they have stopped creating movies and turned them into limited series. So that keeps people watching longer. And it keeps, like I said, it keeps people coming back for more season after season. And that is something that I have started applying with my podcast clients. We went from one-off episodes to series. And in business, this works like a charm. My client went from, she had a decent sized audience, about 3,000, and she went from that to about doubling the size of her audience within months of switching this strategy. Not only did she do that because that's really talking about the reach and the visibility on a public podcast feed. But now let's talking about generating leads. So I mentioned I get a lot of messages from people asking about how do I get the listeners to come out of the woodwork and go into leads? Well, it's not a lead until you have their email address. So by creating a series, you want to create something that goes along with that series that can get the email address. And so for this particular client, whenever we started doing series, she created a freebie that went along with the series. So it was a workbook that somebody could actually, it was a Google Doc, and she just basically took each episode and broke it down and made it into this workbook that people could fill out on their own. And it ended up being kind of like a mini course. It was so valuable. And people came out of the woodwork by like 40% of her listeners came out of the woodwork. That's one of the big secrets. You want to create something that goes along with the series so that you can draw those leads out. That's a key thing. Now, whenever we're talking about the Netflix model of podcasting, production quality, that is one of those foundational elements. Now, some people say, just do it, just get it started, just hit record. Now, I'm going to tell you from my purview, that is not how I run things. I'm a professional musician. I toured with artists from American Idol, The Voice. I've worked with Grammy Award winners, Tony Award winners. I've worked on Broadway. Like, my work is all about excellence. And so that's something that I teach my clients. You have to have really great sounding podcasts if you want people to listen. I read a statistic that over 50% of podcast listeners will turn off the episode if it's bad audio. I don't know about you, but that's how I operate. If it's horrible to listen to, I just turn it off. If you notice on Netflix, on Hulu, on HBO, there's never any tech issues. There's never any audio issues. It's always pristine condition. And that's what we want for our listeners. That's that excellence that we're bringing to the table. And so I work with, my entire team is full of industry professionals, entertainment industry professionals. Like I said, that's my world. And so that is one of the key elements of having a really good digital product and a sustainable podcast model. It has to be top quality. And then the content. The content is what keeps them coming back for more. Now, whenever it comes to content, a lot of my clients, they see people binging their content, like as in will binge their entire archive within days, because that's how good the content strategy is. To give you an example, our average as an agency, I wrote this down, is for every 250 downloads, they get 100 leads and 25 people binge multiple episodes. That is an insane amount of metrics. And I monitor metrics. I'm a nerd. I love analytics. And your analytics can be one of the best tools for you to build your content strategy on if you have a podcast. The reason I say that is because you can go back and you can look at the episodes that had the highest amount of downloads. And then the other metric to look at is your consumption rate. What are the episodes that people listen to the longest? So it'll tell you, between a 50 and 70% consumption rate is really good. If it's less than that, then that's not necessarily a topic that your audience was interested enough to stay around for. And so those are the two metrics that I look at whenever I'm building a content strategy is, okay, what's being binged and what's the consumption rate? That's the same way that Netflix chooses what to renew and what to cancel. Okay, so content is a huge part of your podcast, and it's a huge part of podcasting for business, because ultimately you want to take from your social media analytics, your email analytics, your podcast analytics, and you want to see what has done well, and then you want to create content around those topics and just make them, put your own spin on them and do them differently every time. And sometimes that might mean bringing in a guest. That, there's so many different ways you can do it, but content is a huge part of that podcast ecosystem to have success in your podcast and to really draw out the leads. Now, the marketing aspect. Now, this is where I think a lot of people fall short in podcasting, because they think that they can just make one post on their social media and they can send out one email and wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. We've got a marketing strategy for a podcast. That is not how this works. You have to nurture this is something that I want people to understand. Podcasting is one of the best nurturing products for nurturing an audience and nurturing leads, because the more they listen, the more they get to know the sound of your voice, the more they get to feel like you are somebody that is actually like their friend or somebody that they can talk to. And that's what makes them want to work with you. And so you can't just nurture them with one post. It just doesn't work that way. You've got to have multiple posts in multiple mediums. And then the next thing is email. Email strategy is huge because email analytics are fantastic. I have a really good open rate and a really Like my open rate is about 4 times the average, and my click-through rate is also, it's probably 3 times the average. And the thing is that whenever you use your podcast in your email strategy, you're going to see your open rate go up because one, people, we know this, people don't really like to be sold to, but whenever you're selling a podcast, it's like, go listen. This is something that is free value. And then that nurtures them into wanting to work with you. Now, the average open rate on email is 20%. Something that I started implementing into my pod funnel is SMS texting. Why? Because SMS texting has a 99% open rate. I don't know about you, but on my phone, I cannot stand the little notification red dots. They drive me up the wall. So by implementing texting into your funnel, first of all, 99% open rate is really good. Number two, it's really easy to click in and listen to that podcast right there because it's literally one click and you're there. Whenever I did this with my pod funnel, I had a 100% listener rate through SMS texting. Not only did I do that, but because I had a sequence and an automation with the texting, it made it really easy for them to book calls because I would say, here's a free resource and feel free to book a call if this is aligned for you. And 60% of my listeners from that pod funnel booked the call. That's insane. That's not normal, but that's the power of SMS texting. So you implement, you've got your social media, that's more for reach and visibility, email and text. That's more for nurturing. And you want all of these components. You have to have all of those in a sustainable business model. And so those 3 things, if you are an organic marketer, those are the 3 things that you have to have. Now, paid marketing. This is where I've had a lot of success with my pod funnels, is by putting in ad strategies. Now, I'm not talking about spending thousands of dollars on ads. I have not even spent a total of $1,000 on a podcast ad. I might spend $3 to $5 a day whenever I'm running my pod funnel. That's it. And that does it for me. That's the thing. People think that they have to spend all this money on paid ads, and that's not the case. Whenever you have a really solid audience, you have really solid ad creative. So what I tell people to do whenever they're making their ad creative is I just say, go find your best performing social media posts and then repurpose it for an ad. Now, of course, with paid strategy, you're sending it out to a cold audience. So you've got to make some tweaks because your language that you use in your organic marketing for people that already kind of know you, you can be a little bit more loose and casual, but whenever you're doing paid ads, it's a cold audience. So it's a little bit different. There's a little bit more nuance there. But all that to say, once you tweak all of these things, my average click-through rate is 3 to 5% on an ad. And so what does that mean? That's going to make my downloads go up. That's going to increase my email list because if you do a lead generation ad, that boosts your leads. And then from there, they go through and binge your content. Like, this is a brilliant marketing strategy. And when implemented and tested, it can work for you. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, I've got 3 minutes left. The last thing I want to talk about is monetization. There are so many different ways to monetize a podcast. For podcasting for business, specifically for speakers, podcasting is great. Why? Because it works in both functions. If you are a speaker that wants to start getting paid, you can actually create your podcast to be a lead generation activity. So you can use it as a demo of your speaking. And then you can also use it as whenever you have your speaking engagement and you have a merch table out in the foyer or in the exhibition room or wherever it is that you're speaking, you have a card with a QR code to your podcast on there. And so the people that were in the audience can come by and listen. So it works in 2 different ways. And so that is a really key thing. So if you have like coaching services, that's more for that audience, whereas you're still using that same podcast as a demo reel for your audience of potential hosts for speaking. So I love speaking as a monetization way. In fact, one of my clients, I taught her how to start booking herself, and she's made over $15,000 from 2 workshops already. So that is, speaking is a great way to monetize. Another great way to monetize is through memberships. Everybody has a membership these days because of the low cost factor. But I have one client who now granted, she had a cultivated audience, but she monetized with like $55,000 in 1 year from her podcast membership. And there's ways to integrate the podcast and the membership so that they work together. And so these are ways that I actually work with my clients. And it's really fun because we get to be creative. So many times in business, it's a cookie cutter model. I don't work like that. And so that is why I love doing done for you, done with you work. And we actually build out a strategy that works for you and your business. So if this feels aligned to you, feel free to follow me on Instagram at Click Management. It's CLIQ Management, or you can find me on Facebook.
This was amazing. I see so many people that, talking about making in promotion of things in general, what engagements are absolutely golden. So thank you for a website that you would like to share, or just your Instagram.
Just find me on Instagram and my links are there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for being amazing, and y'all, this was a huge round of applause. Thank you, Erin, for about podcasting and for you, as opposed to it just being something that you're doing because somebody said it would be a great.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for appreciate you. And thank you. Next guest, welcome to have you here. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm having a little bit of feedback. Are you good?
I can hear you like the stage, and I think it'll be fine.
Perfect. All right, so let's get this started. What we focus on becomes our reality. For me, I had a long beginning. My journey in the education world was the long beginning. And in 2015, I walked out of teacher-parent conference night into the parking lot, and my entire life changed. When I walked out, I'm going to admit something right now to you. I actually snuck out 2 minutes early. But I do want to say that all of the principals were already gone, and the parents that had come that night had left the building. So I'm admitting I snuck out 2 minutes early. And when I walked out into the parking lot, I heard screaming. And this was the type of screaming that really just impacted you and you thought, this is a serious situation. This wasn't my high schoolers out in the parking lot being silly. I knew that something was wrong. And as I continued to take steps towards my car, I noticed that my student and his mom were crouched down behind the car doors of the SUV that were open, blocking them, and they were screaming. Very quickly, my attention turned and I saw a boy on a bike, and he had a gun pointed in their direction. And he was screaming. There was a lot of screaming going on. And of course, then I began screaming. I started screaming words that were not the traditional type of language that an educator would use when teaching her students. At the same time, I was calling 911. I later found out that this boy on the bike was only 14 years old. Now, during this crazy chaos, it was very quick. But as I was screaming, I don't know if it was my teacher voice or just the chaos of the moment, but the boy rode off. He was later arrested, and they recovered the gun, and it was fully loaded. So that's the long beginning, and that is really where my journey out of education began. However, it was a long journey. It took me 6 years from that moment to actually send the email for my resignation. And although I wish that was an isolated situation, in this work environment, there was a lot of things that impacted my life in a negative way. Although I loved the students, there were things that were really just not healthy for me. But my brain was feeding me information that I needed to stay here. What else was I going to do? I'm a teacher. I'm going to retire here. The kids need me. So when I was sending myself those messages, I stayed for 6 more years. Now, I share this story with you today to let you know that your brain is incredibly powerful, and also to share with you that you have the power to retrain your brain. So over the course of those 6 years, I started to slowly do that. And admittedly, I didn't even realize that I was doing it at some points. When COVID hit, I do credit that for a time where I was able to do a lot of internal work for myself. I really started to tap into how to retrain the brain. And slowly, I started to change those messages that I was giving myself. And this may sound woo-woo. I'm going to share some secrets for you to unlock the power of your brain today as a business owner. And I want you to know that it is all backed by neuroscience. Even if some of it sounds like, I don't know if that can work, there is research behind this, and we can dive a little bit deeper at a different time on that. Now, I want you to think of a time when maybe you think, oh my gosh, my brain is focused on something, right? Think of it in your business or your personal life. And I want to say it is an honor to speak to all of you, because you are the change makers. You are the creatives. You are the people and the business owners who pushed past the fear already. So you've done some of this work without even knowing it. And today I want you to use these tools that I share so that you can show up as your highest self, as a stronger leader, help your team, whatever uniquely fits for you and your place in your business. It doesn't matter if you are a brand new business, if you are a seasoned entrepreneur, maybe you're starting a new project or a new spoke of the business. Steal this and make it uniquely your own. Now, I really hope that none of you have ever had a gun pointed at you. I sincerely hope that never happens. So I want to tell you another little story about the reticular activating system so you can really connect with it. The reticular activating system is a pencil-sized piece in the back of your brain, and it is a powerful piece that is the gateway to all things that come into your brain. You can't possibly process everything that is coming your way. So this part of your brain, along with some other areas, does the job for you. So when someone says your name, if someone says Kate, I turn my head. That is the reticular activating system at work. I want you to think of a time when you were maybe shopping for a car. For the sake of storytelling, let's just say it was a Jeep. So you're looking up Jeeps. Maybe you're looking at all the different features. What color Jeep do you want to get? You might even be Googling some information about different things that you want in this new vehicle. You probably have visited some car dealerships, taken a test drive or two. Now, how does the reticular activating system come into work here? Here's what happens. You've been doing that. You've been thinking about this new Jeep that you really want to purchase. And all of a sudden you're driving and you start to notice Jeeps on the road everywhere you go. What a coincidence, right? You take a walk in your neighborhood. Around the corner, you realize, oh my goodness, I didn't know the neighbor had a Jeep. Well, that's crazy. And maybe you even start asking, if you see someone outside, do you like your Jeep? And you start talking about it. You hear ads on the radio. You see billboards. It's on commercials. Jeeps are coming at you from every different direction. And you start to think it's a little crazy, or maybe you don't even acknowledge that it's crazy at all. That is the reticular activating system at work. Your brain is focused on that Jeep or whatever the vehicle is that you were thinking of. And it is putting it in the front of your thought patterns. Those Jeeps were there. When you were on the road trip, driving to work, wherever it is that you saw those Jeeps, the Jeeps were there and they have always been there on the road. Your neighbor probably had the Jeep for a while. And the ads were always coming through. You just weren't focused on it because your brain wasn't telling you it was important. So hopefully that can help you connect to what the reticular activating system is on a personal level. Now, how can we dive into the reticular activating system as business owners? I want you to steal some of this and start using it today. I'm just going to give you a few tools because there's a ton of ways to do this. We're going to start with goals first. And I know as a business owner, you've had a plan, you've probably created some goals, but I want you to make sure that you're using SMART goals. If you're not using the SMART goal technique and you're finding that things in your business just are not really going the direction you thought they were going to go, or maybe you want to start something new, a SMART goal is where it's at. And the acronym SMART, we're going to break it down. S starts with specific. You need to be super specific when you're writing out and creating this goal, because that is telling your brain what you're going to do and what you want done. Let's think, for example, if you want to focus on social media and you say, I want to be more active on social media for my business. Okay, we're going to be specific. How many times a week are you going to create content? Where are we going to push that content out? Are we going to schedule it? Am I going to go live? When exactly am I going to do this? Social media Mondays, the day I'm going to do it. You are going to put all of those specifics in there. The more specific you are, the better. M stands for measurable, and that directly relates to this specific part, because it's great to say, I want to be more active on social media. You probably hear a lot of business owners saying that. What does that even mean? Because to you, it could mean something totally different than it means to me. If you are active there now, maybe you want to add something new in. If you don't do social media at all, being on every single day, creating tons of content, going live, probably is a little bit overwhelming. So you need to make sure that you put this in as a measurable piece. And A is the next part, that it's attainable, right? Just like I said, wherever you are in your journey right now, if it's not attainable, you are going to feel like overwhelmed and I cannot accomplish this. Don't make it so easy that you can't do it at all. I want your goals to actually be something that scares you a little and excites you a lot. That could be your overarching goal, and we're breaking it down because remember, everything starts with the first step. So when you're making it attainable, when we're in the letter A, if you overshoot and you put this goal a little bit too big, you realize this is not something that I can possibly add into my business. Maybe we're talking about the social media still. The good news is you can reevaluate and you can change this. And instead of saying, I failed, I didn't accomplish this goal, I want you to take that word failure and switch it to research. Because if you thought it was an attainable goal and it doesn't work out for you, this is simply research. And when we change the word failure to research, we can learn from it. The educator in me loves that. And I want you to do that, learn from it, right? Let's move on to the next letter. Letter R stands for relevant. And this means that this is your North Star, your why for this goal. Why do you want to be on social media? Maybe you want more clients. Maybe you want to practice speaking at meetings or being a speaker and you want to go live. There has to be a reason why you want to do this, and you need to connect with that, especially on the days when things are tough. We all know as entrepreneurs that it is a roller coaster ride, right? So when you're going up that hill and everything's going great, you're so excited, and then it's a quick drop sometimes, right? That's where we go back to the relevance and that letter R, whatever it is for you, and hold on to it, lean into it. Letter T stands for time. You need to set a time frame for this. And this goal may be something that you want to do for the lifetime of your business, but I want you to put a time frame so that you can evaluate. Go back to that M and measure, right? So in 3 months, 6 months, a week, it's your unique goal, so you can decide that. And then when you go back and you talk to your team, it's easy for you to measure and evaluate, look at those specifics. So along the way with these goals, I also want you to be aware that you need to celebrate yourself. That is something that you should be doing no matter if it's a super small goal that you accomplished or something big along the way. And treat yourself with kindness. You probably celebrate everyone else, right? So start doing it for yourself. That is a way for you to honor your dedication to your business. And it helps you continue down that path. Okay, let's move on to another goal. I'm going to give you 3 today. So the second one is visualization and affirmations. This is where it gets a little woo-woo sometimes for people, and they don't believe me at first. But if you just stay with me and you try this, I guarantee that you will be able to retrain your brain. So when we're talking about visualization, I want you right now to think about the highest version of yourself in your business. So we talked earlier, it doesn't matter where you are. You could be a brand new business owner. You could be in the weeds trying to create something new, a seasoned entrepreneur. I want you to close your eyes right now. If you feel comfortable, I'm giving you the invitation to close your eyes. And I want you to visualize your highest self within your business. What does that look like for you? What does it feel like? Who are you surrounded by? What are you saying? What are you saying when times are tough? I want you to really feel it. You are not dreaming. You are creating here. You are not from the outside looking in. You are actually in the moment. And to take it a little bit further, I would love to see you do this every night before you go to bed. This is not a magic pill. This is not, lucky me, you started this thing. No, this is rewiring your brain and changing the neural pathways within your brain. Alongside of that, you're going to throw in some affirmations, and you can create them to be uniquely yours. But affirmations are basically just statements that will change those thought patterns, and they will send positivity into your brain. Connect them directly to what you want to do with your goals. I'm going to share a few of mine. I have a long list. You can steal them if you like, or you could create your own. And these are things that I say out loud. I have it on Post-it notes. I have it on the screen of my phone. I say it when I'm in the shower. I'm driving somewhere. I say it. These affirmations are a part of me now. So here they are. Steal them if you like them. I am the missing piece to every opportunity that presents itself to me. I am a super attractor of my dream clients. Money flows easily to me. What I want wants me too. Now, let me give you a little warning. This is going to feel really awkward for you at first. You're going to think, really? Am I the missing piece to every opportunity? Money doesn't seem to be flowing easy to me right now. When you're creating something new, here's why. Your brain already has those stories and the thought patterns. That's what's in front, that reticular activating system. But over time, if you start doing this, you're visualizing yourself and you are saying these affirmations, you literally will retrain your brain. And you can do this for any area of your life. I know we're talking professionally today. You can do this personally too. And like I said, it is not a magic pill. It does take some work. So you're not just going to say this one time and wake up and think, I have all the success. Everything is working out great for me. This is something that you need to do on a continuous basis so that you can rewire your brain. All right, let's keep it moving. We are going to go to the next area. And the next area, checking my time here, the next area is your support network. I know within this community, there's a great level of support. And I really want to encourage you that you need to surround yourself with people who are inspiring and want to build you up. When I was in that teacher role, I had some wonderful friends, and they're still great friends, but they were not on the same journey that I was on. So if I wanted to build a business, I needed to surround myself with people who are building businesses. I needed to be within that feminine energy so that I can create what I want to create. You may or may not know this, but you are actually the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with most often, because they're feeding your brain and you're hearing it, you're paying attention to what they're doing. So I just want to remind you that those 3 things are just a couple tools. There's so many ways to rewire your brain. But if you start with your goals, you work on the visualization and the affirmations, and then you also surround yourself with a tribe of people who want you to succeed and can inspire you to show up as your best self, your best leader, or maybe it's for your team. This will help you start to rewire your brain. So I just want to end with, I think that anyone who is paying attention to this is obviously already in that zone that they want to show up as the best version of themselves within their business. So start doing this. Remember, maybe it's for a new project. It's for a completely different change. It's for building a new business. Whatever you are thinking about, I want you to put that into your life and start small, because every great accomplishment starts with the first step. So even though we want those big, scary, exciting dreams, you can have them. You need to start small if you're going to do this, and then keep going. Because once you step into it, you can keep going. Your brain will say, this is what you do now. So if you think that this is something that you would want to go a little bit deeper on, I do provide coaching. I go in and I do workshops on mindset. I absolutely love being the problem solver to something within your team or for yourself internally. And I will tell you that once you start doing this work, it does have ripple effects because you're doing the internal work, just like you're surrounding yourself with all of those amazing people in your network who support you. When you start doing this, you start talking about it and you start telling people, try this. And it has a ripple effect into all areas of your life and everyone benefits from it. So I just wanted to say thank you for having me, and I'd love to connect.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. Love and brilliance.
And huge round of applause. Thank you, Kate, for appreciate you. And thank you, rich, juicy tidbits with that.
You're very welcome. Rooting for you always. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And with that, we're going to switch. I want to welcome our last speaker, Donald. Welcome, welcome. I'm so happy that you have stopped. I appreciate you. And
hey, sorry, you're breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me?
There's a delay. Yeah, there's a delay. But I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to talk to everyone today. All right, so I figured since my area of expertise is tax and accounting, I would talk to everybody about that, right? It's my one true love. It's my love language. So I think we have probably all seen social media posts that, claim to be able to save you tens of thousands of dollars on taxes if you just do these 3 things, or you can buy a car in your business and it's 100% deductible, or whatever is the hook that drew you in. And so I figured today we could spend a little bit of time debunking popular social media tax advice. And then I'll tell you what the advice, the little tidbit that they give you, what the real version is, the good and the bad, and then a little bit about how to implement some of these strategies in your business. I think probably a lot of people here are business owners themselves. And so hopefully the information I'm going to share today is super, super relevant. So real quick, just a little bit about me. I am a CPA here in Virginia, although I do have clients all over the country and some out of the country. I founded an accounting firm in 2013. Earlier this year, I acquired another accounting firm, and so we have rebranded the whole entire shebang to Steadfast Bookkeeping. We specialize in working with small business owners for tax strategies. We focus on good accounting, good tax planning, and good tax returns. So I love speaking to groups of business owners about taxes and accounting. It's super powerful. And then just a fun fact about me. In 2022, I went skydiving for the first time and I actually really loved it. That's probably the craziest thing I've ever done. I am an accountant after all, so we're not super crazy, but I really enjoyed it. So we're going to talk some taxes. I know taxes are the bane of your existence. They're the bane of my existence. Nobody loves taxes, even me, although I can talk about them all day and all night. But nobody likes taxes. And that's why people gravitate to those social media posts that promise to save you tens of thousands of dollars or completely change your tax situation, completely eliminate your tax liability. People love that content. And it's not, some of it is blatantly wrong, but it's not usually all wrong. So we're going to dive right in. The first one that I hear a lot that I love is hire your kids in your business. It's tax-free. You can pay them up to $12,500 or whatever is the number they're hawking, tax-free. So is that true or is it not true? It can be true, and here's how. So the truth is, yes, you can hire your kids in your business, but there is some nuance to it. They have to actually do work, right? You can't just pay them for living. You can't just pay them for doing household chores. They have to actually do work in your business. You have to treat them just like any other employee, right? You're not going to pay your other employees if they don't work. Same thing for your kids. You have to pay them as a W-2 employee. You can't just give them cash and write it off. You do not want to issue them a 1099. because then you're going to subject them to self-employment tax. They have to be a W-2 employee paid through payroll like any other employee. And you can't pay them outlandish rates, right? No 12-year-old is going to make $50 an hour to stuff envelopes. That's just not a thing. That's not the amount you would pay somebody else, so it's not the amount you're going to pay your kids. If you are a sole proprietor or a single member LLC, then you do not have to pay Social Security or Medicare tax on their wages. And you also don't have to withhold those from their paychecks. If, however, you are an S corporation, then you do have to withhold Social Security, Medicare, and pay both, just like any other employee. So as you can see, there is some nuance to this. Now, where does the tax-free piece come in? Here's how that works. You can pay your child or anyone else up to the standard deduction, and as long as they make that amount or less, they're not going to have any taxable income, and so there's no income tax. For 2023, the standard deduction is $13,825, I think, right around there. It changes every year, so I don't memorize it, but we'll just say $13,500 to make the math simple. I think it's $13,850. So you can pay them up to $13,850, and they're not going to have any taxable income on their federal tax return. However, some states, like Virginia, where I'm located, have a lower standard deduction. In Virginia, the standard deduction is only $8,000. So if your child is paid over $8,000, they are going to have a state tax liability, and so you're going to have to withhold state tax. So the answer is yes, you can hire your kids in your business. It may or may not be tax-free, depending on entity type and how much you pay them. All right, next one that I love, and I hear this one a lot. Pay yourself rent tax-free. Your business can pay you for the use of your home, and it's tax-free. This is also known as the Augusta rule or the 14-day rental rule. For those of you who are tax nerds, it's IRS code section 280A. So the truth is, yes, in certain circumstances, your business can pay you for the use of your house in a tax preferred way. But again, there's some nuance here. So you have to actually hold a business meeting, and you're going to want to document that, have an agenda, who attended, what was discussed. So have records. You have to have good records. It has to be ordinary and necessary, right? So you're not going to be holding, a meeting and you're pay yourself $5,000. You have to pay fair market value for the space, and you're going to want documentation about that. So you can look it up on Airbnb, VRBO, call hotels in your area for how much it costs to rent like conference room space, and have that documented in your records to determine how much you're charging for each day of rental space. And then to maintain that preferential tax treatment, you can only use your home 14 days or less throughout the year. So let's say you want to have a monthly shareholder meeting at your house. That's going to be 12 meetings a year. You're going to document each meeting. You're going to have in your records the fair market value rent for that amount of space in your area. You're not going to look up rental rates in San Diego, California if you live in Virginia Beach, Virginia. You're going to look in your area and have it all documented. There was actually just recently a tax court case about this very thing, and the taxpayers lost. They tried to claim this really crazy high rental of home deduction, and the IRS disallowed it because they didn't have any records of their meetings. They didn't have any documentation for fair rental value for the space. And so the IRS threw it out. And they're not afraid to do that. So make sure you have all of your documentation in order. And then this can definitely work. You can have shareholder meetings. Let's say that you have a monthly get together for your employees, if you're okay to have them at your house. There's a variety of ways that you can meet the criteria to take advantage of this tax strategy, but you don't just get to say that you had a business meeting and then you take a deduction. You have to have all the documentation. Here's one of my favorites, promise number 3, buy a vehicle in your business, write off 100%. So the full statement that you'll usually hear is buy a vehicle in your LLC and write it off 100%. The truth is that yes, you can buy a business vehicle And yes, you can deduct some or all of the expenses depending on the circumstances. But as with everything else tax-wise, there's a lot of nuance. So anytime you ask me a tax question, the answer is going to be, it depends, because it really depends on your situation. And so let's dive into this one a little bit. First, there must be business use. Just saying it's a business vehicle, just titling it in the company name does not make it a business use vehicle. Also, wrapping the vehicle does not make it 100% business use, and that does not make 100% of the miles business miles. Now, the cost of the wrap can be a business expense, but the vehicle itself, not necessarily. You can only deduct the portion that is business use. So for example, let's say in 2023, you drive 10,000 miles total, and let's say 4,000 of those were for business and 6,000 were for personal. That means 40% of the usage was business, and so only 40% of the cost is going to be deductible. Then you'll hear people talk about bonus depreciation. You may hear that bonus depreciation is this magic tool that allows you to take a whole bunch of depreciation all in 1 year. For 2023, bonus depreciation for assets placed in service in 2023 is 80%. So you can write off, if it qualifies, 80% of the cost all in 2023. This can be a really powerful tax strategy. However, it's still limited by the business use portion. So back to my earlier example, if your vehicle is 40% business use, you can write off 40% of those expenses, and your bonus depreciation is limited by that 40% as well. And then there's an added layer. If your business is an S corporation, which a lot of ours are, the value of personal use miles, so let's say your business is an S corporation and you buy a vehicle in the company name, it's titled in the company name, it's registered to the company, insurance is in, commercial auto insurance. The value of those personal miles, back to my earlier example, 4,000 business and 6,000 personal, the value of those 6,000 personal miles is actually taxable income to you and has to be added to your W-2. So it actually creates a tax liability, income tax, when it might not have otherwise. So my recommendation typically, and again, it's facts and circumstances, so it depends, but 9 times out of 10, if the vehicle that you're buying is not going to be for 100% business use, like let's say you're a paint contractor and you're buying a van that the staff uses, the painters use to get to and from job sites, that's 100% business use. If it's your personal vehicle that you use for business and personal, usually I will recommend to have your S corporation pay you a mileage reimbursement under an accountable plan rather than buying the car in the company name, because you create unintended tax consequences when you do that. So buy a vehicle, write it off, maybe, maybe not. My all-time favorite one is form an LLC and run your life through the LLC, and then all of your personal expenses become deductible. I actually saw, I think it was TikTok, I saw a video of 2 people who were standing in front of a room full of people telling them that if they formed an LLC and lived their life through their LLC, then all of those expenses were business expenses and were deductible. That is 100% incorrect. An LLC, first of all, an LLC does not make an expense deductible if it wouldn't have been deductible otherwise. So whether you're a sole proprietor or an LLC, doesn't matter. A business expense is a business expense. The code section for that is section 162. So if it meets the criteria to be treated as a business expense in section 162, it will be that way whether you have an LLC or not. So you don't necessarily need an LLC for tax purposes. So your personal expenses are personal, even if you pay them out of a company bank account. Paying them out of a company bank account does not make it a business expense. No, your hair, makeup, and nice clothes are not deductible, except in certain circumstances. So for example, let's say you hire a makeup artist to get you ready for a specific photo shoot. Then hiring that makeup artist might be a deductible business expense, but the makeup that you buy throughout the year because you're a social media influencer and you have to look at all the time, that doesn't make that a business expense. It's still personal maintenance and it's not deductible. We see this a lot with social media influencers. I had to buy a nice purse. I have to buy a nice car. I have to own nice stuff. I have to have beautiful artwork on the walls because I put out content. That's not how that works. That does not make those expenses automatically business expenses. It's a case-by-case basis. So just know that clothes that can be worn anywhere are generally not deductible. And then your hair, makeup, and just regular routine maintenance, even if you think you have to look good for your job, doesn't make those business expenses. No, your travel is not deductible just because you have an LLC. If it's business travel, it's deductible whether you have an LLC or not. So personal travel is not deductible whether you have an LLC or not. No, your grocery shopping is not deductible just because you paid for it from your LLC bank account. So this is one, when I saw that video on TikTok, I think my eyes started to twitch and I think I lost my mental faculties for a minute. That was just blatantly wrong advice. And I can't imagine how many people heard that and immediately ran out to implement that strategy. And it's just flat out wrong. So those are some common
I found this on the web.
tax myths that I hear all the time on social media. As a tax professional myself, I get really concerned when I see those posts because I know people are relying on that to make decisions in their business. So the bottom line is consult with a tax professional. And I say that with a certain amount of caution because unfortunately, social media posts are designed to increase clicks, right? It's designed to increase traffic. They don't tell you the downside. They only talk about the sexy side of the tax strategy. And unfortunately, there is no education requirement and no licensing requirement to be a tax professional on a federal level. Anyone can get a PTIN, which is a prepared tax ID number. Anyone can get one, and then you can start offering tax services to the public. Some states have licensing requirements like Oregon and California, but most don't. So there's no barrier to entry. And as a result, there are a ton of bad tax professionals out there. So don't be afraid to interview multiple tax professionals. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask them to prove that they know your industry or that they understand the specific nuances to your industry. Even if they're a CPA, does not mean they know anything about tax. There are a lot of CPAs that have never seen a tax return before. When you become a CPA, there's two tracks. You either go audit or tax. And for all those who went audit, they may have never seen a tax return. So don't assume just because their name has CPA after it that they know tax, because they may not. So don't be afraid to really vet your tax professionals. We spend a lot of money on taxes, and not all of it can be mitigated. But when you work with a good professional who spends time learning the ins and outs of the tax code, who spends time learning how to advise on taxes, you can really find yourself saving a good amount of money. So I'm Andrea MacDonald. I love talking tax strategy. I love talking bookkeeping. I love talking about getting your books up and running. I can be reached at hello@steadfastbookkeeping.com. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, because I've heard so many, and yeah, then when you whatever deduction, however you realize, oh crap, I actually had to get in X, Y, or Z car.
Yep.
And what the meeting, yeah, it's a process. Working with a tax professional who actually and is going to have your back and not just file taxes, 1,000% recommend. All of these mistakes, because I've probably made half, done it twice just to put, whipped cream in a jar. Being a speaker today, thank you for sharing this. How does somebody go about getting in touch with you?
My pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
Cool. Thank you. And we will talk contact information, and we will see you guys.